All right, so let's do a little piston 101, shall we? All right, so I got a couple of questions. A couple of guys that said that these AA pistons are no good. They only use mollies and whatever, and look, we're talking about, these are about $100. I'm going to say a little over, and the mollies are about $400. In my opinion, first of all, if I was going to spend $400 on a set of mollies, I'd just go ahead and buy a set of these barrels, and I would just buy Wiseco pistons, because then I get a real piston that's good. Basically, that's the way I look at it. Why waste your money on the molly pistons? And I'm going to tell you my stories of why I don't use them. And it's not just because I'm trying to be cheap. I'm trying to do a good motor. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take you guys back a few years. Let's go back to the 80s when they had really good options for pistons, and what the difference between then and now is. So back in the 80s, if you bought 85.5s, these are 90.5s, 90.5s, but if you bought 85.5 pistons, you had basically two options. You could get mollies, or you could get Schmidt. Okay, and a lot of times I would run the molly pistons back then because they were very cheap. They were like $50 a set for me back then. And so if you wanted the better performance ones, there was Siemens and NPRs. I couldn't remember the names until I went through that magazine. I went, oh yeah, fuck yeah, I remember Siemens. So anyway, yeah, Siemens and NPRs, and they were only available in, so anything other than 85.5. So if you went 87, I think they even had the 88. So they had all that different stuff. I don't remember all the numbers, but they had the 90.5s and 92s, 94s, all that stuff. And all those other pistons other than 85.5 were only available in forged aluminum. They did not have them available in cast. So now, today, we have only cast pistons pretty much. I mean, there's a few different brands. I guess there's JE's, and then there's Wiseco, and I don't know what others. I don't really buy them because we've had such good luck with these, and I'm going to tell you about that now. But let's see. They have Wiseco, JE, and some of those others. Now, if you're running a performance engine, you want to go on the track, you want something bulletproof on the track, pretty much, let's go to Wiseco, and you're pretty much good to go. They're lightweight. They'll handle the RPMs, and they don't come apart. Turbo engines maybe a little bit better for those things and stuff like that. Higher boost. There's even probably better ones. I'm not into the racing thing, so I don't really know all those things. So talk to the racers about that. That'll help you, figure that part out if you want to go racing. There's a whole new set of guidelines for that. So when I got out of EWs and then I got back into them, I had to kind of get reschooled on some of these things myself. So of course, what I do, I go to the best guys in the motor building business that I've known for 30 some odd years, who sell parts. Of course, that's through Carcraft. Some of those guys, we had rivalries back in the old days, but of course we've gotten over all that stuff now. But I go to my best guys and I say, hey, what's the best stuff now? And he says, look, I've been running these AA pistons, and you know what? They've been really good. We're even running them in mild turbos, mild turbo engine, low boost engine, and these things are still holding up. So, that's the kind of thing I've seen with the AA pistons. We really haven't had very many of them actually crack or go bad or whatever. And some guys just say, just because it's made overseas, or I'm going to say China, I don't know if they're really made there. Might be Taiwan, I'm not sure. But let's just say, no, it's made over there. It's no good. Everything from there is no good. And that may be not true. I mean, we've even pulled the pistons out of the cylinders, and even the rings are properly spaced. I've never seen one that wasn't. So, it's just crazy, what, people say. So I got guys who are like saying mollies are better. Okay. So I pulled out mollies and had cracks in the skirts. Okay. I pulled them out and had cracks in them. I haven't seen that with the AAs yet. Chris is running AAs on his drag car, and he basically runs it way more RPMs than he should. Well, he cuts it off at, I told him 6,800, don't go any higher for sure. But he's running a 78 crank, and we're going to talk about that stuff in a second. Because the bigger the crank, you have less RPMs. You know, there's a whole array of different things you can do, can't do. So anyway, he was running those. The mollies that I seen, I was actually watching a friend of mine. He goes, oh, I've got the good pistons on this one, and he put the mollies in it, right? And I watched him vent the case, you know, and ruin a pair of super flow heads right in front of me with dual 48s, you know, revved it up, bop, once, kaboom, goodbye. Guess what happened? The molly piston pin separated, and the piston, you know, it let go. So I'm not going to say that these will do the same. I would never rev a car that high with these type of pistons. I would go to the, like I said, go straight to Wiseco. Don't mess around with that stuff. You're going to spend $400, but you do spend another $200 or $100 and you get yourself a set of barrels and just put the freaking, you know, the freaking Wisecos in there. You don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. You know, well, I'm not saying you can't just rev it as high as you can rev it, but I'm just saying it's not gonna be on the edge. So that's why I'm running these. Let's talk about pistons for a second and reciprocating motion. Here's a set of abused AAs. Look at that. And you don't see I saw right here, the skirt was cracked on the molly, and it didn't even look, it wasn't anything nearly as abused as this piston was. So let's talk about reciprocating motion. So a lot of people miss this, and so maybe you're having piston problems, and maybe this is going to help you understand why you had piston problems, and maybe it's really not the piston, but your engineering was wrong. So, you know, nobody likes to be wrong, but you know, somebody's got to be. So anyway, so you got your rods and your crank and everything. Okay, the more stroke you have, the more stroke. So now you've got reciprocating motion this way, right? The bigger the stroke you have, and the bigger the bore. So the bigger the bore, you're going to have a heavier piston, correct? You'll have a heavier piston with a bigger bore. So if you go more bore and more stroke, you have more reciprocating. When that piston goes up and it snaps to go back, there's more stress on where the wrist pin attaches to the piston. Okay, there's more stress right there. Let me see if I do have a molly, I believe. So anyway, can't find it. But anyway, we'll go over. What I was going to say is, look, you need to be thinking about your RPM limit. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, it's going to vary depending on your bore and your stroke. So if you're going with 94s, you got more weight, and you got it flipping out further and coming back. If you've got a longer, let's say you're going 82 stroke, and you've got further out, more reciprocating weight, then you're going to have a definite lower RPM limit than a guy who's got a 78. You know, like Chris is running a 78 and a 92, okay, or 94s. 78 by 94, and his 78 by 94, it's not the 78 and a half either, it's a 78 by 94. It is only going out so far, so he's revving it up about as much as he can, and even 6,800 is pretty much probably over engineered for the piston. But I'm just saying, you know, that if you kind of figure, if you're running like 82s and you're running 7,000 RPMs or 6,800 RPMs, you're probably revving it too high. You know, that's probably going way higher than the piston can handle. That's when you need to go to the Wiseco pistons. You know, I'm not telling you the limit for your car. I'm just trying to tell you that you got to figure that out based on the reciprocating weight. And when guys are putting too much weight on their pistons, they're making it go too far, and that's what they end up with problems. Anyway, that's a little bit for pistons. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.